Good morning, viewers. It's 8:14, 5th of February 2025. I am on my way to work, but I am somewhat stuck in a jam. Heading westbound. Yeah. Heading westbound to the west where my office is. So I just thought maybe, some time to kill. And this helps me not put me to sleep. I don't know how many of you have been in jams and you're driving or maybe you're riding a bike and you start getting tired. Probably because, well, not to say that there's nothing to do, but you have to drive the vehicle or ride the vehicle. But I just thought to come up and just talk about a few simple things. And one of the subjects that I was actually very interested to talk about was actually performance appraisals in your job place or in your workplace. I just had my appraisal, and so basically, let me just give the simple breakdown. My main role is to focus on quality control and writing for product guides. Good morning, officer. And the thing is that I guess in this day and age, post-COVID and everything, it is a time where everybody, in terms of management, starts to think that staff should be taking on more roles. Now, I think it's fine that if, as a manager or as a director, you are encouraging your staff to take on more roles, to learn new things, to be more flexible. I'm cool with that. Now, of course, as with every kind of thing, there's always a caveat to it. And my concern is always to always think that if you're putting a role or you're probably assigning a new role to someone, would you not think to put the role that this person can actually do well within the first month or so or maybe 2-3 months that they're into this new role, to make sure that they're coping well, that they're adjusting properly, that they can fulfill the role requirements on top of their contractual job descriptions. So I've been doing some, how should I put it? I've been doing some roles that are actually initially not mine, but this is the truth. I found out that it wasn't supposed to be me, but it was actually supposed to be someone else doing it. But it got assigned to me, and at that point in time, the company is going through restructuring, and then I guess being as an employee, and that for some of us, we are just focusing on let's get the job done. Let's get the job done well. Let's do it right, and then we can go home. Stuff like that. But in the end, I realized that there is no good out of it, even when you put so much effort and everything. And how this fits into the whole performance appraisal is how I'm going to describe to you guys about it. Because what's happened is that even though I've actually tried to understand, number one, tried to understand the requirements, number two, try to ensure that the milestones get done properly, the job tasking is done properly, there are no issues, there are no mistakes, and people that are supplying me with information for their projects gets their information out. Now this is all right, but the problem comes when we're all adults, and some of us shouldn't have to be chasing people for work. But hey, everybody has different priorities, everybody has different focuses and principles. And if they just think that, it's okay to submit their work late, then I'll submit my work late. Different priorities in life, even in career goals and targets. But my point was, what I was very unhappy about was the fact that my appraisal was quite warped, because if I was to put myself in the shoes of my employee, and I decided to appraise my employee who's taking on a new role and has actually put in the best foot forward, made an attempt to understand, to learn, and they've actually voiced their concerns that they would like to, be more focused in their job scope and stuff. I would honor that honesty. But what I don't like about it, now this is a bit of a rant, is when, we play that kind of, some people, play that kind of tough love, to try and instill this kind of like motivation, like this negative motivation that if I say something to say that, oh, Mr. A is not doing well because, well, Mr. B does better than Mr. A because, Mr. B is perfect. Mr. B can do all these things and there's no issue because Mr. B is brilliant. He's considered like the perfect standard of the epitome, the pinnacle of a stellar employee who's doing that role. But let us remember one thing for those of you eventually when you get to managerial positions, is that the employee that you're praising, you need to see things from their perspective. You need to be in their shoes to understand that you are asking them to take on a new role. All right, let's put aside the fact that you're paying them a salary. All right, let's not get so into the dollars and cents of, oh, I'm paying a salary, so I get to dump on it. But my simple philosophy is when you go to McDonald's, and over here in Singapore, they ask you this question: do you want to get an upsize? Basically, an upsize means an upgrade. Larger fries, bigger drink, you pay for it. So similarly, if you're expecting an employee to take on more roles, to take on more responsibilities, don't you think you're a bit more ethical and fair to actually compensate for the effort? I'm not one person, I don't give a wooden nickel about promotions, and because anyways in life, all you get is a title, and when you end up in a coffin, nobody's gonna hammer and put on your tombstone, oh, director or manager or sales director or whatever of what company there on your tombstone. I don't believe in that, and you can't carry these titles to heaven or to whichever kind of nirvana that you intend to travel to. Yeah. But all in all, I felt that the comparison, between this tough love comparison, wasn't fair to begin with, and so I think it was just terrible. But I've gotten to a point in my career where I'm like, well, if you want to talk about comparing people like that, well then just talk about it. Because the fact of the matter remains, we can't change the way people think, and more than certainly, we can't change the way that people behave. And there will always be these people that oh, it's never good enough, it's not good enough, you need to be this standard, ain't good enough. I'm sorry, but if you're going to live in I don't know what kind of utopian perfection world they live in, that term, the perfect employee, does not exist. And let me be fair about it, the perfect boss doesn't exist as well. But the truth is that when we do appraisals should always be two ways. You appraise the employee, and the employee gets to appraise the employer. That would have been great. And some of you might ask, well, how is that beneficial to my business? Well, simple enough. If you have a product or you're providing a service, feedback, constructive feedback, critical feedback, that focuses on specific points would help to improve your business. It's up to you. The customer comes to a restaurant, they say your souffle or your pasta is just very, very salty, it doesn't have any flavor. So you would make improvements so that your customer would come back, because this is your trade. This is your trade skill, or your key products. You're trying to sell, and you would think that improving the product or the services that you're providing is so important. The sad part about it, this whole appraisal, is that no matter what, you can try your best, you can try your hardest, but then you realize the real truth is that in every kind of corporate culture, there will always be these guys or gals who come and say, oh, so and so is doing better than you, so and so is doing better than you should be that way, blah blah blah. Yeah, sure, go right ahead and compare two pieces of beef, grade A, grade B, grade C. The best part about it, just to share with everybody, is when I was in primary school, they used to have this system, where they used to label you based on your academic skill set. So basically your grades, how good you were. So if you were the best kid, you would be an EM1. I think they call it like elementary something 1. And then if you were the so-called in-between, you were like EM2. And if you were not the smartest, but somewhat there, you'd be EM3. Old-fashioned way of saying thank you, but a bit used to it these days. Yeah. So I didn't realize that once you get to adulthood, you also went into a situation where you also become regulated. You get a ranking, you get labeled. Now I know some people might say, oh, that's not a very good way to say label, we're just trying to categorize. But you can say it any way you want it. You can be saying it's categorizing, you're trying to label stuff. But if you think about it as a parent, now I'm not a parent, but I've done teaching for kids, young adults, teenagers, and elderly. And I would never label people, because everyone has different learning capabilities. Everyone learns at a different pace, and it's not very fair when we come and say, oh, this person is just bad in learning, and they can't do this, and because of this they are like that. Oh, the traffic's moving, guys! Yay! Well done to the traffic control and traffic police. Yeah, so basically this video is just a rant about appraisals. And I always think that some of you, if you get to managerial positions at some point, try to think things in the two-way street. When they talk about, oh, that person didn't give me respect, well, what did you do, or how did you react, or how did you treat someone that gives you the opportunity to receive respect? Now obviously if you treat your staff like crap, you can't be expecting $1 million from your staff or your employees, because as I said, respect is a two-way street. Yeah. So if you want people to treat you a certain way, then you treat them a certain way. But obviously is a perfect world. And at the end of the day, we still have principles that we still keep to, and there's still things that we still believe in. We have principles, because the old saying that without rules, we would just be the same as animals. But the difference is that in terms of your personal life and the outlook, having principles, morals, values, and ethics governs the way you think. Not just towards the way you treat people, but towards the way that you react and the way you see the world today. And I never think it's very fair to say, before we end off this very long video already, to say that, the new, they call it Gen Z now, Generation Z, are all strawberries and they can't do this. Well, let's not forget that back in the day, when people still use yellow pages and we didn't have smartphones, we had payphones, we used quarters, we used dimes, we used 10 cents to make phone calls. that was back then. You know, we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't have connectivity and all these things. So life was very different in the boomer stage, respectfully, to the boomers. And we compare the Generation Zs to the boomers now, and you know, or the boomers back then. The perspective and the mindset is different. But what I'm trying to say is that it's not always easy to compare like with like in the different world. And I guess this is where we'll end off the video. And do share in the comments how your job appraisals were like, you know. And I think it's important that as workers, as staff, we share about, you know, what we're going through, because the fact of the matter remains is that, you know, before I end off, we live in such a world where there's so much emphasis on mental health and mental wellness, you know. Mental health, mental wellness, how do we upkeep it? And part of it is really addressing the changes that we see in the working world now. Any industry you do, F&B, IT, you know, HR, oil and gas, any industry, you know. But for those of you who are like me, you know, you just want to do your best, you know, and even though you're struggling, you're tired, maybe underpaid and underappreciated, you know, I just want to say that you are not alone, and I hope and pray for the best outcome for each and every one of you out there. So I'll catch you all in the next one. This is Y2K signing off.